It's time to leave Adolphus Island. We've spent 2 nights here now. It's an opportunity to catch our breath after that big long passage up from Stanley Island. It's a nice little anchorage here. It's mostly flat, but there's twice a day at least when the tide turns and the swell comes racking into the bay, and it's a bitch. For us, it's been timed sort of round about dinner time and in the morning, sort of like right now. Winds are up around, I'd say 20 to 25 here in the anchorage. I did just check the wind observations at Horn Island, and they're only getting up to 20 knots. So it must be a little bit less between us and Horn Island there in Torres Strait. So that's a good thing, because we're still a little unsure about the steering and the bearing. I've sprayed WD-40 into it, which stopped the squeak in the anchorage, where it's not really under a lot of strain. So I'm hopeful that we've managed to get that sorted with something as simple as that. But there is a guy there at Horn Island, Martin, who can come over and have a look. He's a commercial diver and a mechanic from MI Marine, if you're interested, or if you're passing up this way. He's going to come and have a look. Apparently he can replace the bearings in the water if need be. So wow, so if I'm in doubt, once we get to Thursday Island, that's exactly what we're going to do, because there's no way you want to be halfway between here and Indonesia and the steering is failed. So, short hop across from Adolphus Island to Horn Island today, 22 nautical miles, downwind mostly. Should be on a broad reach. I'm just going to pop the headsail out so that we don't put too much strain on that rudder, and we'll just wait and see how she goes. I am hopeful. So just pulling up the chain, we had about 55 or 60 metres of chain out here, just because I had plenty of room. And why wouldn't you? If you can. Here's the gang getting ready for the sail across to Horn Island. Oh, they are stoked. Look at them. They're like prize fighters. Just about ready to jump out of their cages, these two. Goodbye, Adolphus Island. Thanks for the rolly experience. Actually, you know what? On a whole, it wasn't too bad. Just be prepared for that tide change when there's trade winds and it's blowing. This is my happy dance. And I'm happy because so far the rudder is not making any sound at all. So what I thought was shot bearings inside the rudder post may well not be. A little bit of WD-40 onto the top bearing. They're dry bearings, by the way, they don't take any grease for those with a mechanical, bent. So there's no greasing them, but a tiny shot of WD-40 in the top bearing has taken all that sound away. So I'll have Martin have a look at it when we get to Horn Island, just to confirm that the bearings are indeed okay. But I think we're good to go. And there was a massive stress coming up, at least from Lizard Island upwards. For those big long runs, I hardly slept at all, just stressing about the steering about to break and fall off. But it looks like that's not the case. So happy dance, everybody. So there we are in Torres Strait there, heading from Adolphus Island to Horn Island. We've got the tide with us, so we're making a nice little speed there. I've only got about 80% headsail out, just because I want to take it easy on that rudder today, but it seems to be performing beautifully. So I've just noticed a yellow mark in the water here. Usually denotes a special mark of some kind. It's coming up on AIS. I'm not quite sure what it's for, but steering away from it now just to make sure we've got plenty of room. No idea what it was there for, but we've given it as much berth as I possibly could on the short notice that I had. You can see it's actually visible on the AIS. I probably should have noted that a bit earlier. But anyway, there it is. The rudder and rudder bearing have made not a sound for the whole trip across from Adolphus Island to Thursday Island. I just want to do a little bit of a shout out to Chris on Stormtrooper. Thanks, mate. That little tip you gave seems to have taken all my stress and worry away. Chris was able to get onto the internet and do a heap of searching for us where we only had very, very partial reception, and he came up with a solution that solved the problem by the look of it. So, you know, it's always nice to have mates you can reach out to help you out. So thanks, Chris. See you again on the water somewhere. We didn't catch fish, and we're approaching the entrance between Horn Island and Thursday Island. Lots of navigation going on here, so it's time to put a line in so I don't have to deal with that at the same time as I'm trying to deal with that. So, tricky little entrance going on there, not sure if you can see it. Basically we've got to come up to a waypoint here and then dogleg through a channel. In theory there's enough water for us if we go across the sandbars there, but I think just to be on the safe side we'll stay in the deep water and follow the channel. The channel's shifted a little bit here from my chart that I've got on my chart plotter. So there's a special mark there, I'm sorry, a south cardinal mark there. You can see a starboard hand mark there. Switching over we can see a port hand, two port hand marks there. So this entrance is very narrow, very narrow. Whether we get across the bar or the sandbar there by cutting across, I'm not sure, but things are clearly shifted. But we'll definitely follow these channel marks. It's only about 7 metres now we're through that little bar, channel passage, whatever you want to call it. Now we're going to go find somewhere to anchor. And it's definitely a working port. It's not a tourist resort here, not a chance. That's Horn Island on the left, port side, and Thursday Island on the right, starboard side. I've come in a few boats, there's a few moorings here. Thought, oh, I see one guy on a boat, I'll just have a quick chat to him and just make sure we're okay, plenty of room to swing, all that sort of stuff, not getting in anyone's way. And turns out he's the mechanic I spoke to yesterday about my rudder. What are the odds? 1 in a million. Anyway, we're going to anchor in here. Here we are, safely anchored at Horn Island. That's Thursday Island. In the distance between me you can see the township of, sorry, distance behind me you can see the township of Thursday Island. And we're just sitting here in the anchorage at Horn Island. We'll get the dinghy in the water and go ashore this afternoon. We'll eat lunch first. We're the only yacht here, there's a couple of working boats. That's it, sandbank directly behind us. Quite close, I'll have to keep an eye on that. But what a pretty anchorage, eh? It's very calm in here, no doubt about it. This is a prime spot to be. I put the pic down here at Horn Island and I've just had a look at the Navionics chart, which is more up to date than my current one that I've got here, and it shows a wreck pretty much about 100 feet in front of us. It's pretty close to where I anchored to drop the pic. So I'm going to move the boat and find a new anchorage, not far away, but concerned. I've just dropped the pic again. Difficulty finding room in here between the moorings, the anchored boats and the wrecks and the shore. We're right there. So I'm hoping that we don't end up swinging onto those mud banks. I don't think so. I think the tide and the wind will keep us off. Join us in the next episode as we explore Horn Island and prepare to step off across the Gulf of Carpentaria.